Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining this session on putting scouting on your resume. My name is Don Huff, and I'm really excited to be here today with you to talk about how we can um, think about the skills and the experiences that we have in Scouts and the Order of the Arrow and translate those into our life. This is intended to be an interactive session. I'll say at the outset that in addition to the members of the section officer seminar that are participating in person today, this is also one of the live sessions, so members of the broader scouting community may be watching in as well, and we welcome you to the Central Region section officer seminar. I'd like to start today with some inquiry about who's here and a little bit about yourself. So I'll start with an example, and then we're going to focus on the folks in the section officer seminar, and we'll go around and do that. As I mentioned, my name is Don Huff. I'm born and raised just outside of Chicago, Illinois, part of Tacone Lodge, and for the past 6 years, I've lived in Washington, D.C. About 15 years ago, I had the pleasure to serve as the Central Region Chief and have been involved in a lot of NOAC planning on the administrative side and been lucky enough to be a section advisor in that time. Professionally, I work for a management consulting firm with the federal, supporting the federal government. So I help federal government clients, figure out how to implement new processes and transform some of their business to be more modern. It's kind of what I do by day, and I suspect, that's one of the reasons Patrick thought this session might be something I could offer insights on. So let's go around. I think it's easy from a virtual perspective probably to call on folks, but if you could kind of give your name, where you're from, and I know that, we probably have a really wide range of viewpoints, what people want to do with their careers, and maybe they have that figured out or they're on that path. If you have a sense of kind of where you want to go in your career, I'd love for you to share that, or if you do something now, that'd be great. So Michael Weber, could I call on you first and you give your introduction, and then I'll kind of call on other folks as we go.
Absolutely. So hey everyone, if we haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm Michael Weber. I'm currently serving as an associate advisor here in C6A. So I personally am based out of the Indianapolis area. Back as a youth, I had the honor of serving as the chief here, and now I have the honor of being back as one of our associate advisors. So I know I'm kind of unique in this session, popping in as an advisor, but my personal approach toward it will be as a hiring manager in my professional career, knowing that I'm someone who wants to see more scouts, adding any assistance, any help I can there, and especially in any ways, knowing that as an advisor, one of the things we want to help everyone with is set up their life and their career and advise in any way we can, even beyond the scope of prepping for an act or prepping for a conclave. So always get value out of Don's courses, so happy to come back for another one.
Well, we're glad to have you, and especially that hiring manager perspective will be great. Thanks. Mike Beerton, will you go next?
Yeah, I'm Mike Ryerton. I'm from right in the middle of central Wisconsin. I enjoy snowmobiling, sailing, being outside in general. I plan on pursuing an accounting degree and then a law degree, and then hopefully going to finance and then mergers and acquisitions or private equity.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction, Mike. And that's, wow, you have a clear vision for your path forward, and hopefully today can take something away from that. Peter, will you go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter. I'm the vice chief with C7, and I currently study biomedical sciences at Marquette University up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm looking into either the dental or medical field.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thanks, Peter. Jonathan, will you go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Goen. I'm the Section C4 Chief. I am from Wheaton, West Virginia. And so my career aspirations is I want to be a public relations specialist. And I want to really put a focus on, brand strategy and management. And so that's kind of where I see my career focus being. And so I could say as well, with me, what I'm doing in scouting, this is going to help me out a lot. This session is being able to put this experience on my resume to help me find a job one day. So nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. Joey Grable, will you go next?
Yeah, my name is Joey Grable. I'm the Section C6A Chief. I'm a freshman at Vincennes University, currently pursuing a degree in civil engineering and land surveying.
Awesome. Thanks, Joey. Welcome. Ian, will you go next?
Absolutely. I'm Ian Flickmere. I'm out of Section C1A, born and raised just north of the Twin Cities of Minnesota. I'm currently going to school at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities as a computer engineer. I'm in my junior year, and I'm looking forward to developing special hardware and software technologies for specific applications.
Okay, awesome. Great. Thank you. Dylan?
Yeah, my name is Dylan Heiser. I am the Section C5A Vice Chief. I am from Golden Sun Lodge out of Lincoln. I currently go to University of Nebraska-Lincoln, where I'm studying biological sciences pre-med.
Awesome. That's great, pre-med. Alex, will you go next?
Hi, my name's Alex Birds. I'm from Section C3A. I'm the secretary, and I'm looking into accounting or business administration.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And Aiden, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, my name is Aiden Scott. I am the section chief of C6B. I'm from Cincinnati, and I'm currently pursuing a triple major: physics, astrophysics, and mathematics at the University of Cincinnati, and I would like to become a research scientist.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thanks for sharing. And wow, what a great group that we have on the call today, participating in the seminar. Not surprised to hear about so much of the high achievement and aspirations from a group of section officers, but certainly a diverse range of interests. And I think today's session will hopefully be applicable for all of you. So I'd like to start by just talking about some learning agendas today, the learning objectives for today, rather. The first being, I want us to explore how we can talk about, and maybe a better word is translate to some extent, the experiences that we've had in Scouts, in the work that we've done often, as a section leader or as a lodge leader, and how that can be relevant to the workplace. Well, maybe not a one-for-one match. As we talk to people like Michael, hiring managers, there's some opportunity there. So we're going to hopefully walk away with a good understanding of that. Second, let's talk about how your OA experiences and progressions can kind of be a similar model for your career. Many of you are, going through college and as we just heard, have a good runway or path that you're looking to take. And kind of similar to your OA career, you didn't start as section officers. What's that look like? What are those skills and that progression that's going to happen to move towards advancement in your career? The third objective then is, what are some core traits or tenets that, regardless of the industry you're going into, can make you a valuable team member? And I feel like this is one of the areas as a section officer, so much of what we do can have a crossover to our career. And then finally, let's make it tangible. I said this is going to be an interactive session. And so we're going to talk about, hey, how can we package that into a quick sales pitch or elevator, a way that we speak about ourselves, whether it's to folks like a hiring manager, a potential employer, or just folks in our network, about what our experience is, and make sure that we have that tool ready to go. So we're going to start the presentation with kind of going through some stuff. And if we've talked before, you know that I tend to use a lot of stories or analogy throughout training. Feel free to ask questions. This is, I'm going to make pauses intentionally to kind of dialogue, because that's what this is about. All of us digging in with that focus will help get the most out of it. Then the second half of the session, we're going to work on that tangible, hey, how do I frame myself and speak to it? And then as a group, practice those. So thanks everyone for getting started with some initial sharing today. So let's start by talking about that first objective, translating your experience, right? How can the skills you learned, as a section leader certainly, but also throughout your career as a troop, chapter, or lodge, help you in your career? And let's start with a discussion there. Does anyone have any ideas about what you might take from being a section officer that would help you in your career?
I think one glaring example is our communication and speaking to large groups of people, especially ones we don't know, in any career field, that'll be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Thank you. Definitely, as section officers, as scouts, right? We set ourselves apart in having some unique experiences to talk in front of groups, big, small, with a lot of variation of style. And regardless of the industry you go in, there's going to be some tenets of that in your career. Great point. What else? What are some other traits or skills that you think you've learned in scouting that you want to fast forward into your career?
The most obvious one to me is obviously the leadership experience that all of us have in this call right now. And then another thing that I think would translate well is kind of just the ability to work with others. A lot of people don't get those experiences and don't really have the opportunity to build on their skills with those interactions with other people.
Those are great examples, right, Dylan? I'm hearing you talk about the leadership development and practice that you have in Scouts, the teamwork. I think those are great examples. I want to ask a follow-up question to you and open it up to the group, right? Leadership is something that we probably all have in spades, right? You've all been elected by your peers, not only to the Order of the Arrow, but to lodge and section positions. You know, when you start your careers, though, you're not typically at the top of the mountain, right? You more are part of the staff and need to grow to those leadership positions. Does anyone have any thoughts about that, right? You have all these leadership skills and you want to show that to an employer, but you also know you're coming in at a fairly entry level place. Does anyone have thoughts about how that might square?
Yeah, I can go ahead. So up until this past year being elected as section chief, I've only served in positions that have helped assist and support roles. So if it was a vice chief, I was the section vice chief last year, but I've served in vice chief roles, committee positions all over. And I think of myself as a I fairly can say I'm an okay leader, at least. I think I know what I'm doing, but I also learned that serving in roles where I'm not number one, that's okay, because I can take leadership in whatever role I am doing. There's a task that I can do and I can complete it and show people that I can be a leader, even if I'm not number one. So that would be my big thought, saying no matter where you are, you're able to take leadership and you're able to kind of go and do more just because of wherever you're serving in, if it's in an organization or in scouting. So.
Yeah, that's Jonathan, great answer. I totally agree, right? Because one of the truisms about leader, as opposed to the man on top of the mountain from, Vision of Leaders from the 1950s, right, is we know in today leadership is about taking care of your team, right, and serving those that you lead. And I think there's a nexus there as you start to talk about your career. Yeah, you have all this leadership experience and you know how to sort of motivate people, but you also understand that leadership is about getting the most out of the team, right? And so whatever role you're on the team, high, low, entry level employee, mid-tier, or executive, you can bring to bear that team, the effectiveness that leadership brings to a team. I think that's awesome. Other thoughts on skills from Scouts that you might translate into your career? Let's take one more.
Yeah, I would definitely say foresight, planning, and especially time management, because we all have experience planning a conclave or an ACT conference, and so we get those awesome aspects.
That's right. That's you guys are making this presentation so easy, and as you go through it, I think we're going to dive into each of these topics. So I'm glad that we're initially finding some points of agreement. It is rare, and I'll just speak for myself. I know coming up through Scouts, right, I heard a lot, hey, make sure you become an Eagle Scout because you're going to, it's going to send a signal to people. It's going to open doors, right? It's going to help your career. And I always sort of agree, shook my head, nodded my head. So, yeah, okay, great, right? I can tell you guys now I'm about 10 years into my career on the other side of the fence, and it really has. And in that, I have my current job because of someone in the scouting network that knew I was looking. The job before that, I was interviewing, and the kind of question that put it over, they were asking me a data management question, and if I've ever done kind of this data thing. And I said, well, in this volunteer organization, and I talked about at NOAC how we do that, how we built a system to house everyone. And while I didn't necessarily explain to the employer what NOAC was or the Order of the Arrow, I talked about, hey, for this volunteer organization, I did this, this, and this that met these objectives. Isn't that kind of similar to what you're trying to do? And I'm pretty sure it's the question that put it over. And I know that I've just seen that really play out. And whether it's your Eagle Scout or the other top awards across the organization, those awards are great to get, but I am seeing value, later in my life at certainly turning around those things and adding benefit from them, and then being true valuable signals in the market. And then as someone that does some hiring to my teams, I always take a time to interview a person that has an Eagle Scout on their resume. One, because we had that connection, but two, I think these skills you guys just talked about are present. So knowing that, when you enter your career, it's in hearing what y'all want to do, there's a lot of specialization there, right? Some of the skills you need to be a doctor are different than a researcher, are different than, change management, business transformation type person, right? But there is some universal core to it. There are some traits that I think can make us stronger that we learned in Scouts. And so as you get into those careers, yeah, there's going to be some career specialized training towards that, some more than others. But if you're able to bring these traits forward and have them front and present of you as a team member, as an employee, I think you're going to do really well. They're sort of universal. And so I'd like to start the first portion of our presentation thinking about those traits and what they are. I'm going to highlight 3 of them. So for those that know me, they know that I'm a diehard Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan who, had a great upset win over #1 Clemson last week. So we're riding high. And one of the things I've always admired about Notre Dame, if you've ever noticed, and also Penn State and a number of other colleges, that I've always thought is like a really good trait or universal principle to bring into the workplace, is this concept of no names on the back of the jersey. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's a good example for you to remember as one of the 3 traits I'd say as section officers you can carry forward unequivocally into your career path is, yeah, the team needs to win, right? Whether it's executing a really good conclave or helping a lodge improve or running a really good troop training weekend, the goal is to be successful at those things, not so much that you as the leader or you in your role got credit for that success. I think we uniquely understand, and as you look around at your contemporaries here in the Central Region, some of the best sections that are doing the most, I don't always think of that section chief or vice chief as the person that did that. I sort of think of that section, right? That team that was able to achieve so much. And, we live in a society that sort of pushes us to be a little bit me first, right? And care about scoring points for myself. And we all hope to have long careers, right? And so it's great if you do good products, and you should. But as section officers, we sort of keenly understand this, that no names on the back of the jersey. It's not about if I score the touchdown or you score the touchdown. It's about the team winning. And this mentality is something that I think is rare, not something that we see a ton of. And you feel a lot of pressure early on in your career to sort of produce and really show your boss that hey, I can do this. I can be successful. I can complete this task the best, right? And while that's great, one thing I think we know as section officers is that, it's great that you can do it, but can you get your team to do it, right? What if you're not there that day? Can someone else complete that task, right? And it's about that bigger picture of it's not a matter who does it, it's a matter that the team does, and the team does it well, and the team has a process for that. So the first tenet I'd point to pull from your section officer time to your career is this idea of no names on the back of the jersey. It's not about your individual credit, it's about the team credit. And as the team is successful, good things are going to happen for you, right? I firmly believe in that sort of growth path, right? If you and your team are successful, you're going to get the next opportunity to take on a bigger conclave or be the region chief, right? And same thing in your career. As you do a really good job with your team today, next week opportunity is going to keep coming from your leadership. Let me open up the floor. Does anyone have any examples? Does this resonate with anyone? Can anyone give any examples in their time as section or lodge leaders about how this concept of it's not really about credit, it's about the team achieving was beneficial to them?
Yeah, I'd like to just first off lead with, I'm from South Bend, so I am a fan of the Irish.
Right.
But I would like to say, yeah, so I think especially without like the names on jerseys, when you compare like lodge leadership to section leadership, you're not necessarily like better than them just because you hold a higher position, and that can impact the relationships that you actually have with lodges and that leadership. And so I really like that kind of selfless. We're just a team. Let's score some touchdowns and win the game kind of headspace.
Yeah, that's right. You bring this, you as section leaders bring this incredible ability to achieve more as a group. And that is not something that everyone coming out of school, going into their career, has that capability or even has ever been presented that opportunity. It's a differentiator for you, and it's something that businesses look for, right? Can this person fit with our team and contribute to the overall success? We all know the best teams, right, are those ones that are like 1+1. You put two good things together and somehow you achieve that breakthrough result. 1 + 1 = 3 sort of situation, right? So you don't really know how it's possible, but somehow you got this higher output because the sum of the part, the end product is greater than any individual sum of the parts. So no names on the back of the jersey is the first trait I think we should carry forward from being section officers into our careers. The second, and you guys nailed this in some of our open inquiry, is we are super advanced in the ability to sort of plan, mobilize, deliver, to think through a problem, to come up with how we're going to solve it, to map that out, to bring people together to do it, and then to carry it out. Our section conclaves, our lodge weekends, our interpersonal section officer teams coming together, we follow this process of plan, mobilize, deliver. And while this might seem like something like, yeah, of course you should do that. Well, I agree you should. But I think this is another differentiator for us in that we have this ability in spades. You look at our section conclaves, right? And you step back for a minute and kind of put the non-scouting lens on it and say, I led a team of, 20 young people between the ages of 16 to, 21 for the better part of a year to put together a 72-hour 60-hour program, weekend intensive program that covered everything from the learning that would happen, the fun, the logistics, the safety, the financials, and we did that for 300 people, right? Oh, and by the way, along the way we hosted these council chief meetings that brought together X, Y, and Z, and that weekend had this impact, right? There's not that many people that are going to be able to step out into the workforce and show in spades the consistent ability to plan, mobilize, and deliver that we as section officers really have an opportunity to do. And so, as you're thinking about your time as a section officer, maybe one of the things to consider is certainly doing a great job for those that elected you and those you serve, but also to some extent in the back of your head, I'd encourage you to kind of keep in mind that this might be a little bit of a playground for you to try out these things and make sure you're honing these skills so that as you come out into the workforce, you can be part of that and bring that process of planning, mobilizing, and deliver to your experience. Does anyone have any experiences with this type of thing? Anyone have an example of maybe in the jobs they work now on campus or outside of school where you've been able to pull over some of this learning that you had in Scouts or plan, mobilize, deliver to help your company or your team achieve more?
Yeah, I can go. Currently, I am serving on my university as a freshman involvement chair, and so right now we're planning an event actually. So there's a lot of moving pieces. People are delegating certain pieces over to certain people. But for right now, I was tasked to go fix a problem, and I could say those problems I was able to fix them quick because of my experiences in scouting. I was able to fix it quick, easy, and be able to contact the correct people to get things done. So.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate you sharing. I totally agree. I see in my own work in business that with especially junior employees, right, in their first 3 years of being with the firm, they can often do some of these things, right? They can deliver me a great product. But I asked them, how'd you do that, right? They couldn't replicate it, right? Or they spend so much time planning that we miss the mark on delivering, right? And so we have this playground, this opportunity here where we're really refining the process, whether it's a big or small, a big event like a conclave or just a small getting a work product completed, where we have this methodology and can rely on it and be really fluid in it. So second universal trait, I'd say, plan, mobilize, deliver. Our ability to follow the steps and complete the 360 perspective of a task is really important and something we can pull over. The first was, as you'll remember, we're not in it for credit, right? There's no names on the back of the jerseys. We're people that are committed to the greater good of the team. And the final universal trait is this idea of bringing solutions, right? How many times have you in your scouting career, planned a camp out and then it rained all weekend and you had to adapt, right? Or, you're out doing some task and, the Alawat Sakima for the ceremony all of a sudden has come down with the flu and, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to carry out the ceremony this weekend, right? These are real challenges. Adversity happens. And we, going back to the Boy Scout, be prepared, are the type of people that have been through that and can bring solutions, right? And so one of the observations I have in my own business is that people that are in the workforce, especially early on in their career, can come and say, hey, look, I have this problem, right? And I'll almost always say back to them, well, what are we going to do about it, right? Their strength is rarely that they're able to bring with that a solution, right? And so I'll say, what are we going to do about it, right? And I think we as section leaders, through our scouting experience, have some real currency here, right? We've had to overcome adversity. We've had to adapt and bring a solution to quote unquote make it work, right? And so let me open up the floor. Can we get a couple people? Peter, Alex, Dylan, what's your guys' thoughts? Can you give us an example of a time where you've had to bring a solution, where you've had to adapt mid project on something you're leading to kind of overcome?
I guess I'll go. So obviously, obvious one is COVID, obviously, because we got to adapt to a different situation altogether. And how to go about it was very unfamiliar when we got there, and we came to the conclusion that virtual was a good way to go, and it worked out for us.
Awesome, thank you. Other examples from the team on where they've overcome?
Yeah, so there was a weekend fairly recently, actually, where 3 lodge chiefs rolling into a weekend because they all had ordeals all called me on the phone and said, I need more ceremonialists because I can't source them from my own lodge. People dropped out. And so it was an interesting flurry of a bit of a logistical nightmare trying to see, who from my section officer body could go and sub in for what ceremonialist, and can I pull people from these 2 other lodges, and we did get it all worked out, but it was an interesting 24 hours.
Awesome. Great examples. Thanks, Aiden. I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the type of things that as leaders in our scouting experience has taught us, right? That adaptability, that agile approach, that ability to find a solution and make it work is something that is challenging to a lot of folks and is a differentiator for folks in their careers. So wrapping this portion up, I just remind you, you're gonna the educations you're getting, the on-the-job learning that you're gonna have are all gonna help accelerate you in your specific fields. But there are some universal traits, some commonalities that we as section officers not only have the opportunity to frequently get better at, but frequently are challenged to work with and work through. Our ability to be about the team, to be selfless and think about the good of the team comes to mind, right? The ability to take on a task and go through the steps of planning, mobilizing, delivering it, right? So that the next time that task needs to get delivered, it can get done better, right? And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And finally, our ability to adapt to adverse situations, be resilient, and bring solutions. As members of teams, it's not great to show up and say, well, I don't know what we're going to do about it, right? It's great to show up and say, hey, we have X problem, and here's what if we did this, right? Or this is what I need in order to find a solution. Those are things that might seem commonplace to you, but I would posit that they aren't, right? That they are unique and things that scouting, and in particular being a section officer, challenges you and hones. So what I want to talk about now is, hey, how do we talk about this stuff, right? When you're out at your college, university, at a job fair, you're walking around booth to booth, you're in an interview, you're in your, talking with folks in your network, in the career path that you want to go in, or, your section advisor that's a big supporter of you, or you're talking to someone outside, right? A connection of someone in your network. How do you package these things up, right? Because I get it. You can't say, Don, I can't show them a picture of Notre Dame with no names on the back of their jerseys. They won't get it, right? Well, here's my path or recommendation, my methodology for you about how to think about that. There's really 3 steps or 3 components in it, right? First, you need to introduce yourself and set up your background. You'll notice that's kind of what I asked us all to do at the top of the call, right? You said, hey, here's who I am, here's where I'm in school, and this is what I'm studying, right? That's kind of that first step. They have to know that. They have to clearly be able to say your name and connect you with that. The second component or step here is articulate your goal or destination. I'd like to apply or be considered for your open analyst role, or an internship, or whatever it might be, or the scholarship, as you're thinking about it. I want to do that, and I think I'd be good at it because I have a lot of experience with developing processes and tasks, with leading folks, with being part of teams and helping that team achieve more. And then finally end with an ask, right? And the ask doesn't always have to be the be the big kahuna, right? Like, will you give me the job, or will you give me the scholarship, or will you give me this opportunity, right? Often a great way to end the conversation or turn that elevator pitch back to them is to ask them for feedback on that. Hey, do you think those are things that would benefit your organization? Do you think those are those the type of traits and experience that you're looking to hire someone in, right? And start that dialogue about it. And then they'll probably ask you some more questions and you can get more specific. But I would contend that as each of us think forward about our careers, we should always have in our back pocket the ability to sort of speak to ourselves and what our career aspirations are. And these are some components in that quick elevator pitch, right? You might only have 20 seconds, 30 seconds to give you. They might give you a minute, but by and large, here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. This is where I go to school. This is what I'm studying. I intend, or I want to be in this role 5 years from now, and I think I can get there because of these. I have great experience in collaboration and working through technology, overcoming adversity, and helping achieve. Right? Is that something that you would benefit you, or is that something? Would you recommend I could talk to someone about that? So these are some of those pitches. Any questions on kind of those steps of how I put your pitch together and what those components are?
Yeah, so when you're setting up or kind of introducing your background, how far do you think you should go in explaining scouting and the Order of the Arrow and our position inside of that?
Yeah, so I think it's all context driven, right? If they're going to give you 2 minutes, I'd give them a little bit more. But the way I normally say it is, I normally say, hey, I'm involved in a youth development volunteer organization, right? Just because I want it to kind of be focused on me, right? I want to make clear I volunteer with an organization that's about youth, about service, and about development. But if they seem open to it, right, or if you know they have a nexus to scouting, then I would put that name in there, right? Great question. Any others? Okay, cool. So here's what I'd like to do at the last portion of our session today. I'd like to think about each of you to think about those three pieces of the formula that I just talked about, and work on developing your own pitch. We're not going to break into groups. I want you to do this individually, and my timing's off a little bit here, given that we've had such a good conversation. So it's 2:36 Eastern right now, so I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes till about 2:40 to work on your pitch, and then I'd like a couple folks to share out, right? And you got to take a little bit of leap of faith here. You can make some assumptions, like you're talking to someone that's going to hire you, right? But let's do that for the next 3 minutes till 2:40. I'll call us back, and then if a couple people would share out. For those that have joined the live event, we welcome you to participate in this as well. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation, and you're welcome to email me yours, and we could set up a time to talk through it as well. But for the readout, it's just going to be the section officers in the room. So I'll give you a few minutes to work on that. We'll adapt down our time here just a little bit and make the best of it. So come back at 2:40. I'll call us back together and share out your pitch as if you were talking to a hiring manager. Know that we're speeding through it here. I put back up that sort of guidepost about how I'd speak to it. Is there anyone that'd be willing to share their first cut at it?
I am more than willing, but I know I have spoke some, so I was trying to give some other people the opportunity.
Yeah, Jonathan, dive in for us. You got it.
Okay, sure. Yeah, my name is Jonathan Gold, and I am a communication, digital media, and marketing double major. I have had some experiential opportunities through a service organization called Orviero, and they have given me the passion for my aspired career. I want to pursue a career in public relations with a focus on brand strategy through this internship. What traits are of value to you in this internship, and how can I help answer some of those questions?
Yeah,
so that's
thanks.
Kind of what I have.
Perfect. I know that was awesome. Let me start there. Nice job. I think you had all the elements in there, and I particularly liked your ending question about the traits, right? And I think you also sort of invited a question about this scouting experience. So that was nice. It creates an easy off ramp onto the next part of your interview or conversation. So that's a great starting point, Jonathan. Thanks for sharing. Alex, were you going to share?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had to go get my charger.
Oh, no trouble.
So I'm just like my pitch.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Alex Birds. I've been involved in a youth volunteer organization for 6 years, and I think it'd be a good fit at your business because I have a extreme passion and background for logistical work in a business and coordinating dozens of people at once to achieve a goal. My question for you is what is the best way to fill that position, qualifications?
Awesome. Great ending question, right? Hey, what more could I learn, or what would you encourage me to take some classes on? Knowing you're an expert in this area, that's a great ending question. I don't know if you saw me kind of tilt my head. I was kind of interested. Like I put myself in the hiring manager's shoes. I'd want to ask a follow-up question to, kind of, because that's what you want, right? You want them to say, you want to invite the tell me more conversation. I think we have time for one more share out. Just would someone like to close us out with the final one?
I guess I can go.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
So hello, I am Mike Brierton. I'm applying for the position of blank. I'm involved with a number of organizations, including the Boy Scouts of America, where I earned my Eagle. I'm active in another organization that's a National Honor Society of Scouting, and it focuses on providing in-depth experience for more involved Scouts. The main purpose of this organization is to give service back to the community and develop all the youth involved. In this organization, I have lots of experience in organizing events, hosting training sessions, and working with others to achieve a common goal. What qualities are you looking for with this position, and how can I help achieve these qualities?
Yeah, that's really good, Mike. I think it invites, if we were interviewing, I'd say, tell me more about your experience. Give me some specifics, right? Which is a great next question, right? When you think about that closing, that sort of get off the horse of the end with an ask, ask something tight, right? Something that they can really respond to in sort of a direct, not a yes, no, but also not like in a meta sort of sense. Those were great. Let me give you a few closing thoughts as we come to the end of our time here today. While it might seem obvious to you, so much of these traits that you traffic in every day as section leaders and as lodge leaders are things that the workforce needs. And don't undervalue those or overlook those, right? Your ability to be part of a team that achieves results, your ability to carry a process from start to finish and plan, mobilize, deliver, and are all things that will make a difference, in the workplace. The reason that I gave you sort of a framework for pitching yourself, for being able to speak to yourself, is because this is something that we probably don't do enough of. It's something that will, as you're talking to that hiring manager, that person, they're sort of going to give you their couple minutes, and it's your job to keep their interest, and get them to continue talking, right? And practicing having a good explanation of who you are and what you're about and what you're looking to do are really effective ways to keep that conversation going. So what I'd encourage you all to do is to continue to refine and practice your pitch. It's not something that we should just do here at SOS, right? It's something that you should be intentional about, have some at least written out, and then be able to deliver it and practice it in advance of those conversations. The final thing I'd offer is, in follow-up to today's session, I am going to send the SOS participants some examples of maybe ways to write about your scouting experience on your resume that might be helpful. So expect to see those today. And then for those in the live stream as well, if you'd like to reach out to me, I would be happy to share those with you as well. I really appreciate everyone's participation in today's session about putting scouting on your resume, and am motivated and impressed by all of your aspirations. At this point, for the SOS participants, I'd encourage you to break out with your sections, share some of the feedback from this session that you took away, hear what they took away, and then we'll be back together as a whole conference at 2:15 Central Time for the Getting Lodge buy-in session. Thank you.